Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody had their lunch. I'm Vidya Sagapam from Clean Energy Access Network, and it's my honor to welcome you to this session on powering MSMEs through distributed renewable energy solutions. I would like to call up on stage our moderator, Mr. Sharad Rao, Research Fellow at Center for Social and Economic Progress, CSEP, and also our board member of Clean. Next, I would like to call up our speakers, Ms. Shelly Karketa, General Manager of Melinda Charitable Trust. Yeah. Next, I would like to call up Mr. Samit Jain, Director of Plus Advanced Technologies. Next, I would like to call up Mr. P. Shyam Sundar, Director of Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Next, I would like to call up Mr. Srinivas Shroff Nagesha Rao, CEO of Nail Society, CEO of AIC CV Raman College of Engineering, and former CEO of REC Foundation, and also our board member of Clean. Last but not the least, I would like to call up Mr. Saptak Ghosh, Sector Head Renewables and Energy Conservation, Center for Study of Science, Technology, and Policy, CSTEP. Can I please request the panelists to stand together for a group photo? Thank you, panelists. Over to you, sir.
All right, I get the mic. Okay. So first of all, let me first and foremost, the session has been sponsored by CSTEP. So I'm grateful to Saptak and CSTEP, Center for Study of Science, Technology, and Policy, a think tank based out of Bangalore. It also has an office in Noida, and Saptak is representing CSTEP. So that's it. So Saptak unfortunately has an issue with his throat. So he was supposed to do the starting honors. But let me actually start with Meena sir, the last one. Gentleman, I'll just remove that. Yeah, so Meena sir, there was a last minute cancellation, very, very last minute. Oh, it has both sides. I didn't realize that. Okay, Meena sir had a last minute, I think, challenge, maybe a last minute thing. It's a government thing, you know. So he got caught up with something, so he couldn't make it. Unfortunately, he couldn't also make it online. So that's another issue. But let me start off with, so the whole point of this conversation is, of course, as the title says, MSME, and powering MSME and engaging DRE. That's the theme. So the emphasis over here is the technology, finance, policy, and you have the whole combination and the entire ecosystem. And that's the emphasis over here. So, and that's actually is the intent behind getting the panel. So we have pretty much the practitioners. The first two are the practitioners. Next, Saptak, he comes from the think tank space. So he gets that perspective and he has direct connect. I mean, he works directly with the policymakers. And then Srinivas ji, his significant experience with UNDP, looking at these projects on ground, including in addition to so he was also, as my colleague said, he was also the CEO of REC Foundation, Rural Electrification Corporation Foundation, one of the biggest financial agencies. The sister concern, actually, REC Limited, is the biggest financial agencies. Interestingly, PM Surya Ghar Yojanas also has it's under REC. That's the interesting bit of that. And last but not least, Shyam Sundar. And interestingly, me, Saptak, Shyam Sundar go long back. So Shyam Sundar is the director of Bureau of Energy Efficiency. He manages one of the I could say one of the biggest energy efficiency programs specifically focusing on MSMEs. And that's one of the reasons now people might be get curious. Hey, we have DRE. I said, why why energy efficiency? And then Sham is going to bring that flavor. What is going to happen in that space? So with that being said, let me start off with a small presentation. Um, so the flavor what I want to give you with the presentation is what is this, the MSME part of it, which I'm sure all of you are well familiar with, but let's get some numbers over there and some interesting bit, which courtesy of Sham again. So what is, I mean, the MSME that with DRE and DRE livelihoods and manufacturers of those livelihood products, that's one part of the MSME. But there's a big area of MSME. You have glass, you have clusters, you have glass, you have ceramics, you have foundry, you have forging. You name the unit, you have that sector. Your paper industry, your textiles, coming under all MSME. And now we are talking about DRE in this space. So let me start with the presentation. Just give you, oh yeah, I'm kind of blind a bit, so this is better. So yeah, so the emphasis over here is, yes, 60% of the workforce. Now that's huge. For a disclaimer, I'm also having a MSME unit. I still have a small MSME unit. So I understand what MSME, we focus on in manufacturing, but I understand what MSME comes from. The most important part of MSME, which actually these numbers don't say is, I can use the word we actually take in people from tier 3, tier 4 towns. And all ITI recruits, name it, we get them. So this is, so that means we are not allowing the migration to the bigger cities. So I come from a town called Mangalore, which is close to 340 kilometers, 375 kilometers from Bangalore. And we don't allow, at least one company is not allowing people from, there's a lot of towns around Mangalore, Mudabidre, Bantwal. There are small, as across in, your UP, as across everywhere. And so the MSME is playing that big role. The last bit, everything else you guys might be very clear. Another number, which is very interesting number is, roughly what we are talking about, electricity alone, and this is I've also seen, electricity alone contributes 5 to 20% of the operating costs. Now, that's a big number, and that's where what we can see is, can DRE play some role over there? And that is also one of the conversations that we're going to have over here. The interesting part is, and which actually is not somehow we can do much as a DRE, this thing is the productivity index part of it. Now that's where MSMEs have a very poor record. As you can see, we are basically 1/4 of what actually a large guys can do. So, but where the contribution of productivity doesn't come, our labor, we take in more labor, we provide more employment. So it's an interesting conundrum. So next slide, please. Over here, so this particular slide, it's completely on the energy efficiency side of things. Why? Because if you look at MSMEs as a broad level from the India level, the government level thing, the emphasis has come mostly from the Ministry of Power, Bureau of Energy Efficiency. And their focus has been energy efficiency. So DRE is going to penetrate. But it's going to be seen which particular ministry might do that, but we'll see. That's a lot of discussions going to happen. So here, interestingly, with MSME, and Sham himself was involved with UNDP and UNIDO, and they did quite a bit of engagements across India with clusters. And what are these clusters? Next slide, please. On the left-hand side, that is going to give you what exactly I'm talking about. So what's a cluster? Cluster, people might be very familiar with cluster. Cluster is essentially, for those who might not be aware of cluster is essentially like, suppose, just to give an example, suppose Suzuki like Maruti Suzuki, Haryana, Gurgaon, Manesar. So there's a plant over there. Now, that's where there's an auto cluster, in the sense all the ancillary producers, Motherson Sumi, it provides harnesses. So it will be having that small company over there which provides to Suzuki. So you have the whole auto cluster built around that. Somebody must be doing nuts, bolts. Somebody might be providing just the scrap paper for or to package. So everything is built around there. So similarly, what you see over here all across India, you see clusters. Now, interesting bit is, now if you go west, like extreme on the west side of thing, if you see Gujarat part of it, what's there? Ceramics, textiles. If you come south, go to Tamil Nadu, textiles. Then if you go to, and then if you go to the Andhra side of things, paper. Then you go further north, in the Jharkhand, Bihar side of things, brick. Further north, if you go towards the Punjab area part of it, foundry, forging. So these are the clusters we are talking about. And this is all MSME. Let's go to the next slide, please. And so this is my last slide, so that we'll come back to the main speakers and they're going to contribute. So what we expect from this, and this is what I also want the audience to take, give us more inputs around this. Maybe the questions could be directed so we can also start thinking. A shared evidence-based understanding. And my main interests are the third action, the actionable inputs for future MSME-focused energy programs. That's what I'm keen about. What actionable thing that we could do, say 6 months, say 12 months, what we could do from Clean's perspective. So with that, I'll pause now and let's go right into the session. Yes, we have Shelly ma'am. I mean, this is actually, so I recently, I never knew Linda. I never knew, I just very recently came to know about them. I highly encourage everybody to just watch out for this organization. The reason, I mean, she's going to explain it out. Based out of Jharkhand, Gumla, a specific district in Jharkhand, very close to Chhattisgarh border. So, ma'am, let me start specifically with your question. Please give individuals a taste of the organization from the charitable trust part of it. You have a private limited entity, the journey part of it, the entire scope of things, what you have done, the milestones that you have achieved. If you get a sense of that, that'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharad. Melinda is pronounced as Mlinda, not to be confused with BMGF. So Melinda is actually African, the language Swahili, the word is protector, it means. So in the context of environment, the word. So Melinda actually is a group of entities working together, which have independent boards and management, but we coordinate with each other. So the model that Melinda is trying to replicate now. So Melinda was founded to address the two interconnected problems of low incomes and climate change. And we recognize that at the heart of these two problems is lack of economic growth and lack of reliable energy. So the solution that we then try to find is how we can produce well and consume well. And so our work, we started focusing on economic growth while at the same time reducing GHG emissions. So actually and our role of Melinda is as a catalyst. So that is the vision that Melinda has. And just briefly about the history, we started in 2013, first in the Sundarban regions with pico grids. And then we moved to Jharkhand in 2016. And this particular district of Gumla, which at that time had, it's one of the aspirational districts, had all major indicators, in the bottom. And so here, what we tried is to initiate economic development using clean energy as a catalyst. And for clean energy, we have solar mini grids, and these mini grids are actually the other Melinda entity is managing and operating. So first, the idea was to do it ourselves and see how an economic development model powered by mini grids can be commercially viable. That is the basic premise that we wanted to prove. And so to do it ourselves first. And now we have 50 mini grids spread across 3 districts. More than 5,000 farmers connected with the clean energy. Before that, more than 15,000 households, 50,000 individuals connected with the clean energy, 1,800 plus enterprises connected with the clean energy. Um, the power generated is something like 4.36 million kilowatt, and more than 5,000 metric ton of CO2 emissions avoided. And the bottom line, 20 to 30% increase in incomes of the households, including uh, intentionally in the design, women entrepreneurs, mostly tribal women. So that is the kind of impact we've been able to first demonstrate. And ultimately, the idea was to scale through replication. So that we began when all the mini grids, they became EBITDA positive. uh, from 24 onwards, we've started replication with farmer producer organizations, with CLFs. Now, what happens is the grids are, say, there is a donor or there is equity. These grids, once they are set up, they are handed over to identified, which there is a process, selection process of who will be the replicator, the best replicator. There is a scoring, and then the replicator is trained, and the replication then is done by the community institution or the social enterprise or the entrepreneur. So that is what we've been. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So what I'll do is I'll go around with the questions first and then come back to you, ma'am. Because I have certain questions. I know it's a little strangish way of taking, but I thought, like, people let people get all the flavors, and then hopefully they get another second round of everybody's flavor. So let's go with Sumit. Sumit heads an organization. It's called Plus Technologies. He's a director of the organization. There's a very interesting bit of that organization, which I'm not going to say. But so, Sumit, more what I want to understand from your perspective is, can you introduce your company? What exactly on the DRE side of things, products that you are focused on? What made you move into in that direction? The markets, how actually you are targeting certain markets, like, I should sell it to these players or that. How is that whole thing you design, go to market strategy? The last bit which I'm also interested is the manufacturing. So can you give me some flavor of what kind? I mean, how are you manufacturing this? Can you give me whole that sphere also? I know this is a loaded question. It's got a lot of questions in it. But just to sum it up, your products, how you market them, and how to manufacture. 3 parts. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharath, and thanks, Clean, for this opportunity to be on this panel. Yeah, as you said, it's several questions that you've put across. But if I tell you what we do is, unlike a lot of others that you've been hearing through since morning, we are more on the materials side of clean energy or energy efficiency. And when I say that, what I mean is that we are making materials that will help store energy. And everyone is very familiar with, let's say, lithium ion battery storage, and that is often seen as the probably the most adopted way of storing electricity. But if you think about it, electricity, about 70% of it is used for either heating or cooling. That means you are doing several conversions. You are generating electricity and then converting that electricity into thermal energy, either cold or heat. That is very inefficient. So what we are doing is making materials where you can store heat as heat and cold as cold. If you really go into science, cold is actually the absence of heat. So it's essentially storing heat at different temperatures. And that's what we are doing. We are making these materials, and then these materials get used to make the end products, which you would then use for, let's say, heating your room or cooling your room, or transporting goods. It could be capturing solar energy and storing that solar energy not in the form of electricity, but storing it at 50, 60, 80, 100 degrees Celsius. I mean, a black box in the sun, your car, if it's closed and it's parked in the sun, gets to 70, 80 degrees in the summer months. So we kind of create a black box like that and store that heat as heat. And therefore, you're not converting that heat into electricity using a solar photovoltaic panel and then converting that electricity back into heat. You're storing it as heat. So that's what we do essentially as an organization. And this enables distributed renewable energy or renewable energy to be available 24 hours, let's say. The sun's energy is only available 8 hours a day. So, how can I extend that to the balance 16 hours? Is what we try and do using these materials and creating applications. So, we go out and then partner with companies who can use my materials to create these end products. When we come to the products that we have done, when we started off, we thought, this is a wonder material, everyone will start using it, but that never is the case. So we got into creating some products ourselves. And if I look at the DRE space, one or two of the products that we did was, for example, can I have a dryer which runs 24 hours and produces constant temperature of, let's say, 45 to 55 degrees Celsius? So that's a product that we have done, and we are trying to take it out in the market in the rural areas as well as with large companies that are doing drying. So that's one product I can give an example of. The other is a cold room. So can I, when I'm generating the cold in the daytime, can I store that cold and then use that cold at night to maintain temperature? So let's say a fridge, a large fridge, 1 metric ton, 2 metric ton, 10 metric ton capacity at the doorstep of the farmer. Another example that I can take, which we are doing, is it's more on the energy efficiency side. There is a lot of waste energy in large cold rooms across India. So there is an opportunity to capture that cold. If you open a fridge door, you find, you get a blast of cold air that's getting lost. Can I capture this cold air and then reduce the energy consumption in the cold room? So those are the kind of applications on the energy efficiency side. And India became one of the first countries to launch the cooling action plan, for example, because we need cooling as a hot country. So these are the kind of products that we are doing. To answer your other question on the manufacturing bit, uh, well, we started off as an R&D company. These materials take time to develop, and we're talking of different temperature materials. So R&D became a very important step in our entire value chain of our organization, so to say. We had to spend a lot of money, time on equipment and on trials, experiments, getting the product out. And after that came the bigger challenge of getting people to adopt these materials and create the product. So a lot of application development focus started post that. Uh, Materials were probably easier to make, application development was difficult, and then of course when you look at manufacturing, to make any manufacturing viable, you need a good order book. Otherwise you're not able to run your machines in 24 hours or at least in a continuous way, which makes it extremely inefficient. And as Sharad just pointed out, about 5 to 10% of any manufacturing industry's cost is on the electricity side. So that is a challenge that we faced. But over the last 2 decades that we have been doing this, I think we have finally reached a stage where a few applications have picked up, and that has allowed us to streamline our operations, work out the supply chain, because a lot of these materials do, at the end of the day, come from across the country or even outside. These are formulations that we have. So the basic chemical that comes, the supply chain challenges, the costs that happen because of the transport, especially during the COVID days when a lot of disruption was seen. So all of these are challenges that we had to kind of tackle during the manufacturing process.
Thank you. See, I'm not going to summarize things so that just don't want to waste that time. I'm also only at the relevant places where clean can intervene. I will certainly say clean could play a part in this, and which we will certainly in the last bit of it we will certainly have a plan for that. What the message you guys, people, sorry, folks should be taking care of is part of it. MSME entrepreneurs. I mean, this is from that part of angle I'm coming from, and the I have done it, and a lot of I know a lot of Vireshis over there. We know what's the MSME entrepreneur. The biggest money that we spend is on R&D. The biggest money we spend on R&D, and the equipments and the instruments we buy for that. It's absolutely, and imagine that when you start off, you don't have, like, what do you pledge? I mean, how do you get the capital for that? I mean, if you don't have equity, I mean, what do you do for that? Now, I'm not going to get in the financing bit of it, but imagine what, as Samit said, and which I take away from this is the R&D bit of it. I think something needs to be done in that direction if we want to do interventions for developing nation, that is specifically India and Africa, our applications, specifically for those, we need R&D interventions from that side. That's the message I take it from here. Next bit, Saptak, want to understand what is C-STEP trying to do in the DRE and MSME space? A, what's the overall expectations from that? Are you specifically focusing on any target areas? What kind of interventions are you planning to do? And what is the ultimate outcome that you expect from this?
Thanks, Sharad, for the question. C-Step has been in this energy efficiency space in 2009, I think, since our inception. And we were looking at large industries in the beginning. And slowly from 2015 onwards, we have a laser sharp focus on MSMEs. So the cluster map which you had portrayed on the screen earlier, we had looked at around 7 of them in various places to see where is the gap in terms of energy efficiency. Because when we do the calculation sitting on our desk working with BE and the other think tanks, the gaps that just pop out are very obvious. That if you change this equipment, you save the, and when your costs are 20% electricity cost, it's a no-brainer. And it's also clear that the financing is what stops these small, because most of these MSMEs that we looked at, they were like hand to mouth almost. Product in, product out, product in, product out. So then we realized that one of the premium requirements in the market today is cheap, affordable technology providers with access to finance for these MSMEs, whether it is a biscuit factory in Pina, whether it is a brick kiln in the West Bengal, or just a charcoal based thing in Asansol. All of these require cheap products. Then it makes sense. If you put it in lakhs, then it becomes problematic. So since then, now we are doing that work. Apart from that, we want to understand today what, as part of the energy conservation sector, where do we play a role in birthing new MSMEs? Because today, as you said, 60% of the workforce, we want more and more people, as you said rightly, in the tier 2, 3, to be there, get good employment and become entrepreneurs. And how does DRE enable that? Because electricity generated from solar, typically the business case that the banks or the others look at is who buys it, at what rate, and what is my ability to pay back. What if that electricity did not go to the discom? What if it goes to raise your productivity index? What if it goes to let people use it to make new products so that the income not just doubles but goes further and further? The little presentation that I have is going to talk about the agrovoltaics as a DRE measure and the allied activity that it can birth, which will lead to MSMEs across. So we are trying to make also a robust pipeline of such products or projects which financiers will be interested in.
That's good to hear. Wonderful. Let me actually, because Saptak has clearly laid out what exactly they've done. I'm not going to summarize it, as I said. I'm going to directly jump to Srinivas ji. Srinivas sir, you come from, I mean, different backgrounds. You've worn all kinds of hats. So the UNDP hat is what I'm very, very keen about, specifically focusing on DRE and MSME across India. What has been done? What interventions did you folks did as a part of UNDP? What interventions did you do across? What were your observations post that? And what kind of impact that has had? Can you give some thought, lay the map, so that people get a sense of what UNDP role what has UNDP played around in this specific place, focusing on MSME, DRE, and I understand a big role has also come from energy efficiency. So you can add all three.
Thanks, Sharath. Uh, Sharath wants me to speak my 2 decades of experience in 2 minutes, but nevertheless, I will try to do. You know, at UNDP, there are varieties of programs that are being implemented. I will just focus on maybe 2. One is on the, you can call it decentralized renewable energy because it's concentrating solar heat. So when we took up this program, this was a Jeff supported program. When we took it up, at the baseline, what was the penetration level in India? The program was running by MNRE with some kind of a subsidy. The penetration was 3,000 square meters per year. We set a target of 45,000 square meters per year. So we did that. Initially, concentrating solar heat was only meant for, okay, institutional cooking like in Shirdi or in Mount Abu, these kind of things. But we really took it to all kinds of MSME, whether it is medicine manufacturing or in the, say, laundry making, at least some 20, 30 different applications. And we did that and we achieved all the targets. We finished, this is one of the record, we finished the whole project ahead of time. 5 years was the timeline, 4.5 years we finished. Now, the key was incentive by ministry was 30%. And we sweetened it by another 10% from the Jeff. The program ran very well. Now, the payback on, these are equipment mostly indigenously made. We should be nurturing that. We should continue to nurture that. But everybody went with the bandwagon of solarization, solar photovoltaic. Everybody forgot about the solar, the hot water, thermal systems, dryers, all this is forgotten. Now again, it is coming back in the form of DRE, happy to note that. So we checked the payback on the investment. If it was diesel or LPG, we saw with the solar, concentrating solar heat was 5 years, 5 to 6 years, without subsidy. Biomass to this was 9 years. No chance that it will have, right? Many of our MSME works on biomass. So now what do you do? So this sweetener of 40% helped the payback to be 3 years, okay? So it ran. Now the minute you withdrew the subsidy, then it is back to 5 years. Nobody was interested, okay? So now there is another follow-up program of UNIDO, they're struggling. Now they're working around and doing something, things are happening in a very slow pace. It had taken a very good pace from 3,000 square meters to 45,000 square meters. So one lesson was nurture it. How did solar photovoltaic gain this momentum? 10 years ago, what was the cost? 25 rupees per kilowatt hour. Many of our microgrid people would have charged that much. But today it is far less, maybe 10 rupees. It will be break even. So my lesson from there is just be very careful on when you introduce a program, when you have to withdraw from the program. That's one. Second, we did a program on energy efficiency in steel industry. That's heavily on energy efficiency based, but lessons are useful. So what did we do? We tried to provide baseline audit and make a customized solution. There are about 3,000 steel factories in India producing 50% of steel. Rest 50% are produced by integrated steel plants, which are like huge, who produce millions. These guys produce 5,000 tons to 100,000 tons per year. So we provided baseline audit, customized solution. Next, we provided technical assistance. Our team sat with, as a team in the steel mills, identified the solutions, identified the vendors, facilitated vendor meetings with the senior management, and then identified low cost solutions, no cost solutions, and then went to the medium cost solutions, then got it implemented. So what did we achieve? First program was Jeff supported. In 111 months, we could only reach out to 31 factories. What was the payback on investment? 18 months. Despite this, we took so long. Second set of 300 factories, direct intervention. We took 30 months. We in fact got a challenge fund from UNDP Global, and we did that. And third phase, we did 124 mills in flat 18 months. So now it is all kind of mainstream there. In fact, even when what exactly we said as recommendations, the Ministry of Steel has made that. They have a scheme which is based on how much of carbon dioxide reduction you are giving. Based on that, they are giving incentive. Now it is on their website. You can go and see. And they have implemented green steel certification, which was our recommendation. We wanted to do it, but till ministries are accommodated, it's not possible to do it easily. So today, there are 10 steel mills which got 10 small scale steel mills which got green steel certification. These are given to those which are less than 2.2 tons of carbon dioxide per ton of steel. 10 of them have got. 8 of them are UNDP project holders earlier. 50 or 60 are already there in the pipeline who applied for green steel certification. What's the lesson here? One is the payback is great, and you have set a support system. So this is what functioned very well. Now looking forward, okay, these are the past stories. To my fellow friends, what is in the future? There are 2 programs. Of course, the third program, Aditi, which Shyam will explain. The 2 programs are with UNIDO. One is on textile industry. There are 400 pilot plants which are going to be put up. Pilot plants in the sense, pilot interventions, not the existing textile mills. Whatever DRE we call, whether it is concentrating solar or solar lights, etc., are going to be a part of it, number 1. Number 2, reducing the chemical use in textiles is one of the most important thing, because we are spoiling soil, we are spoiling water and air with textile. You know, one pair of jeans and t-shirt, how much water is consumed, how much you drink in 15 years is consumed. So it's very important that we look at this sector. So in textiles, they are going to work on the what is called 9R. 3-4 hours itself I'll exhaust, recycle, reuse, etc. But there are 9 hours. About 40 factories are going to be supported under that, and 40 on alternative fabrics. Many of the people are involved in this area and other things. Please take a look at this textile project of UNIDO. There would be tremendous opportunities. Come out with your solutions readily and you pitch. That's one. Second is another program of UNIDO, which is getting, the PIF is approved, the concept is approved for almost $10 million. There are, for a first time, the scale is humongous. All UN agencies used to be happy with 100 samples, 200 demonstrations, etc. Mind you, it is 14,000 factories. Direct is 4,000, indirect is 10,000 factories. Interventions is going to be there for decarbonize the MSME sector. So it's more or less on the path that I explained with the steel mills, whatever are the interventions are going to be. So I pause here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope I could share some of my experiences.
That was
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you, Srinivas ji. I think, you know what, once the point over here is, I think, bear in mind, which I think we tend to overlook. See, this energy has like several components. You have electrical, mechanical, different components. But if you look at it from the industry perspective, the 2 big things for energy are electrical energy and process heat. And we don't even get it, because we are if you're an ordinary household, we don't even bother about what's process heat, what difference does it make? And that's what Srinivas sir was referring to. The process heat part of it is where the interventions need to happen. And that's what we have been actually, from my other hat, we have actually been working with Niti Aayog on this part of it, where solar could play a role specifically for process heat part of it. And that actually, hopefully, India can move in that direction, because the point what Srinivas sir made is very interesting. Converting electrical energy to heat energy, it's a big inefficiency. It's very inefficient. But directly if we use steam, and that intervention, that is more efficient. And that's where Srinivas sir was coming from. Last but not least, Sham. Yes, you know what the biggest, I mean, you're from the government, and this is a good intervention, and people can ask specific questions to the government counterpart or Mr. Sham. But I want to know specifically on what initiatives BE is taking, what programs you guys are doing, what is the expectation from the program. Please give people everything. I mean, so you know what, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of MSMEs, and specifically what people are very curious to know, what is government doing and what has happened till date. Please give that sense also.
Thank you, Sharat, for the opportunity. Firstly, I hope everybody are well conversed, maybe aware of what Bureau of Energy Efficiency does and what is the organization is about. See, we largely look at conserving energy on the demand side. So it may be industries, residential, commercial, agriculture. So we largely focus on how to conserve energy in various aspects and also build capacities on energy conservation and progression towards that later. So that's the whole objective of Bureau of Energy Efficiency, and especially for the in the context of today's workshop on the MSME side. So Bureau had a long learning exercise right from 2007 onwards. So we started with the situation studies in 36 clusters because earlier we didn't have any know-how about which sector to tap and which are the areas where we want to intervene and understand what are the opportunities. So we picked, with the help of Minister of MSME, the energy intensive clusters and sectors. So we took the basic list of all the clusters that were Minister of MSME is largely working on. So from there, we had a long learning exercise to come up with programs, picking up 25 clusters, where we dive to understand their key performance indicators. We conducted various audits in mix of sectors like steel rolling, foundry, paper, glass and refractories. So that's the where we understood the number of sectors which are very energy intensive, and where are the process which are highly energy consuming steps that is consumed in the facility, and which are the technologies are probable that would make them shift towards better efficient methods and efficiency technology where they can adopt. And that was the first step that we Bureau had conducted. Later, we had collaborated with various multilateral bilateral organizations like UNDP, UNIDO. So they have been very kind supportive to expand our outreach in various other clusters. So with limited support of BE's budget, we can able to touch upon few clusters. But because of their support, I think we had outreached. I think today I could say we had touched about 150 clusters in the country where we have commendable knowledge about every cluster's dynamics in terms of productions and in terms of process operations and the key performance indicators for every industries. So roughly, I would say, touching about 150 clusters, we are outreached about, means facilitated about 15,000 MSMEs in the country till date. So that was a learning and also a supporting exercise from multilateral, bilateral agencies. And so thereafter, we had a pause and we had, say, we want to know a comprehensive assessment of sector-wise. So we conducted this energy and resource mapping studies for 11 energy-intensive sectors. So these studies were instrumental for us to nail down like what is the energy demand that every sector seeks as on today, and what is their potential, means the demand for future also, so that we can estimate not only what is their energy planning for these 11 sectors, and the same time what are the probable technologies that would support them today until up to 2030 where the opportunities are there. So that was a detailed roadmap that was prepared in the energy and resource studies. So while these studies were concluded, so the right time I would say, so B was also preparing holistical financing programs, because you see, it is not just energy efficiency, but we also have to support them financially as well to the MSMEs. So that's the right time. MOP was also planning to come up with a large-scale program for industries. So after various deliberations, and finally the scheme has now arrived exclusive to support MSMEs with the accountable implementation mechanism, where the MOP wanted to have a monitoring and accountable scheme implementation in the 60 clusters where we have touched. So now we have a database of all the industries where we are aware of, and which are the technologies we see that has a potential. And now it is high time to drive them to implement those measures in their facility. So the scheme, Aditi, that today we have with B is the largest, I would say, largest energy efficiency physical incentive program for MSMEs, where the scheme is providing 5% interest subvention for technology upgradation for the small and medium enterprises, small and micro enterprises, and 3% interest subvention for medium enterprises. So I would say this is the first time such a large interest subvention has been laid out for MSMEs. Minister of MSME has 2% interest subvention, which is just concluding. So now, next 6 years, so B has that volume and also the capacity, the fund that is there for MSMEs today. And so we are looking at to implement this scheme in 60 focus clusters where we have touched. And for this scheme, ESL is the implementation partner, is the largest ESCO, you all know. And we also have UCO Bank with us to support us in disbursing the interest subvention to all the beneficiaries in the process. So basically, it's I would say this is a more first of a kind, which gives the incentive, also a handhold support to the enterprises, because we learned that the energy audit is the missing link in every industry today. So no industries conduct their energy audits in their facility. So the scheme is structured in such a way that every industries get their energy audit done first to understand what is the scope in their facility, not only for the particular equipment, but also to understand where other opportunities and measures that can be included in this scheme itself. So the audit program is mandatory in this program, and once the audit program is being conducted, so we have a dedicated technical committee in our in the scheme where we have a lot of experts, and Bhaskar Natarajan is also here in the forum today. He is also one of our experts in this committee. And so we review the applications and the DPRs submitted by the certified energy auditors. So thereafter, once the approval from the committee, so we give a go-ahead to the unit to get loan sanction from their suitable bank. So we are open. The entity can have open choices. They can avail fund from any nationalized bank and also NBFCs also, because we understand all the cluster level enterprises, the fund is managed within locally. So they have NBFCs, and because many industries doesn't have that logbook, also means the good books, so that the banks can offer the credit facility for them. So we understood that aspect also. So we are open to the industry can take a loan from any financing institutions, and so once the finance is approved and the technology is getting implemented, so the scheme also has a provision to conduct MNV of the implementation, to verify the implementation, also the savings. So the crux of this scheme is to seek at least 10% of energy savings achieved from their interventions. So that is the goal in the scheme, and I would say this is a quite an attractive scheme, and also is first of a kind, which gives both handhold support and also physical intervention, because normally MSME doesn't support such energy efficiency program largely because they don't have an expert continuously with them. So always in any programs, like Srinivas also can comment on this, MSMEs exclusively require a continuous handhold support. That is a missing link for them. So in this program, we have addressed those issues and challenges what you are looking for. So we have a complete handhold support, not only from the audit stages, still right from their MNV stages, to show their whatever the project they have chosen, it is giving the savings. So that is the gist about the scheme, and I would urge, if enterprises are here today, please look on the B's website. There's a complete scheme details about the scheme, the steps involved, and you can also come back to us and learn more about the scheme. I would stop here, then we'll come back to again later.
Sure, yeah, because I'll also ask you about the DRE part of it, or specifically the renewable energy / DRE part of it, but that we will come to that. Shelly ma'am, I'll come back to you. You gave us the sense of things of what MLinda has done, and where the way I've taken MLinda's message is like this. You know what? See, somebody is having a dairy unit in Karnataka. Another person has a piggery unit in Nagaland. Now, like, you use MLinda's model and execute that. And that's where I look at it. So MLinda's model, I don't call it like a DRE model. I call it the entire ecosystem model. And it's taken them a long time to build what they've done. So from that perspective, I want to understand, ma'am, can you explain what the challenges, what you've seen when you've gone through this whole establishment of this model? How have you overcome those challenges? I mean, these specific challenges. And some new, I mean, I'm sure like, there are folks over here who are interested to build these kinds of model or establish these models. So what are those 2 to 3 things that they need to watch out for?
At the onset, I would like to say that we were very clear about the model that rather than creating or building a mini grid first and then searching for customers or end users, that would not be the way of things. The first thing would be to identify underserved regions, and so that's how we started in Gumla, and then look at the landscape, do a feasibility study, and understand what are the potential areas, the gaps, and then have based on the study, which is market led, develop a portfolio of interventions which have potential in the market. So there was a very clear market led approach when thinking of which enterprises to promote. So once this portfolio is built, then look at the load profile. So if you build these enterprises, if you have these many farmers with whom we need to engage with to improve their incomes, no sector was left. I mean, in the design, every sector is covered, the whole of economy approach. So there's the agriculture sector, then there is the manufacturing, what is the potential, what raw materials are available there, and then also, government schemes, they are a big demand generator, because these big schemes of the government for housing, they have boosted, they create demand for bricks, for welding related doors, windows. So these kind of schemes, again, are looking at the kind of demand they are generating, and then also looking at the services which is missing. So building that portfolio and then calculating what will be the load profile if these many interventions are planned and implemented with the community. So that is how the approach is. And then, so the challenges, I will say, first thing was, it is something which is building on the existing ecosystem. So the community engagement, that is really intense. And so engaging with the community institutions built by NRLM, the farmer groups, the panchayat, that is really the, creating ownership, and also, facilitating, because that journey needs to happen. They have to be there to understand what the transformation, rebuilding the economy, what it looks like. They have to, it is their economy, how down the line, say after 20 years, how they want to see their village transformed. So that is the vision, that is the journey that the community we have to engage with. And then, the challenge was, to engage with all these institutions. And so, tapping the leaders, the mukhya, the key leaders, and, that they become the champions. And then the service from the electricity, the mini grids. So that there is something which, because the economic growth design is so closely integrated. In fact, somebody in the first session, she mentioned about looking at the grid as, or the DRE as an economic infrastructure, livelihood infrastructure. That is how we see it also. So, that quality service 24/7. If there is a power disruption, or there is some operational breakdown, it has to be within an hour. So that kind of clustering. So there is a cluster of, say, 50 villages, and you need to give that service you should be able to reach within an hour. So setting up that kind of warehouse where the spare parts or even the engineers, they are able to move to that village within an hour. So the best service. So people, when they pay, they get that service. So that is really at the core. And then, of course, the partnerships. It is essential. It is in the design. So when we are looking at partnerships, and I forgot to mention, like, this approach is system driven. It is not about Melinda doing everything. It is because already we have a very robust economy. The institutions are so robust. So just connecting the dots. So looking at the actors, the institutions in the domain of science and technology, in the domain of policy and governance, in the domain of culture, which is something we miss many times, looking at in the domain of user and markets and business and industry. So across all these domains, engaging with the local actors, the stakeholders, and connecting the entrepreneur, the farmer with them. So then we have a blueprint, okay, because we just facilitate and we give the training because the portfolio is there. So it is clear which actors, of which domain should be connected to. And then, the thing is that the farmer or the entrepreneur is able to, again, do it by themselves, be it finance also. So that is the essence of the system's way of doing things.
Thank you, ma'am. Just to put it in a very my understanding of the way. See, there's an ecosystem part of it. What's Emelinda trying to do? One is the entire ecosystem part of it, which is you have the financing, you have the technology, you have all pieces part of it. You build this whole ecosystem. That means what? So you also need to create the demand or understand the demand. So farmer has whatever, he produces millets or he produces rice. It has to go to an entrepreneur where milling needs to happen, and then that milling requires electricity, right? So then this whole ecosystem building part of it, that is contributed by Emelinda. There's one entity of Emelinda which does that, which is what Madam heads, Charitable Trust. Then you have the electricity providing entity, which is a private limited company, which provides electricity to these entities. So now you see there's a big piece over here, and that's what Emelinda does. Now see, so there's two pieces over here, one private limited and there's a trust. That's a big thing. I mean, it's just, wow. I mean, I'm always wowed by that whole model. So coming to Samit, I want to understand new products, the new DRE products, new distributed renewable energy products. I mean, what's your strategy across, like, customers? How do you reach to the customer? That's where I'm more interested in. How do you reach to the customers? What kind of pricing you do for those customers? Like, what's your pricing, this thing? And what is the friction points that you have faced? And also, do you provide financing? So,
new products, DRE based, we are looking a lot at decarbonization of heat currently. Not so much in India, but we had opportunities to look at it in Europe in a big way, and I'll give that example. And all of that can be extended to India. If you look at these Scandinavian countries, you look at Netherlands, you look at Denmark, Germany, or Western Europe in particular, you see that the summers are becoming hot. The temperatures are getting to 30 degrees Celsius, but their nighttime temperature still remains at 18 degrees Celsius. So if I could store the night cold and use it to cool the rooms in the daytime, I would reduce my AC consumption substantially. This may not be applicable all across India, but if you look at the dry parts of India, Rajasthan, maybe Madhya Pradesh, the night and the daytime diurnal temperature difference in the summer months is at least 10 degrees Celsius. So a lot of that cold at night and it's literally free cooling because you have the cold air. Can I capture that cold air and store it in these materials? So that's one that we are looking at. We have done several implementations in Netherlands and also in UK, where the nighttime cold at 18 degrees Celsius air is stored in the material, the cool energy is stored and then used to cool the rooms during the daytime. And if you look at Europe, right, they have glass buildings literally because it was all designed and they're closed, they hardly have windows. They were all designed to capture heat. These were all cold countries. Yeah, it's unfortunate we are copying that model in India now, but and creating greenhouses in Gurgaon, but a lot of these buildings can't be opened easily. You don't have windows, and they are now retrofitting a lot to be able to keep the rooms cool during the daytime in the summer months, and that extends from, let's say, April to September, even October now. The other application that we have looked at, there's a lot of shipping industry, and ships run completely on diesel generators. And in cold countries, you need water to be heated. You need the entire ship to be heated, the rooms or the cabins. The engine is generating a lot of heat. So we are capturing this 70, 80 degree heat, storing it, and then using it to heat the cold water or to heat the cold air. So these are the kind of new applications that exist. A lot of this can be adopted in countries like India, although the global south unfortunately needs more cooling than heating, but there are still opportunities there. Heat can be converted to cold, so that can be done by making the vapor absorption systems more energy efficient, etc. So that's one thing that we are looking at. Another opportunity that India has, and we wish to do so, it's not the best topic to talk about, but we do know that tobacco is consumed in a huge quantity in India, right? Even ITC, I don't have the numbers, but to hazard a guess, about 40% of ITC's turnover is through cigarettes, if nothing else. And all the tobacco drying in India is really from the British times. There are about 10,000 of these barns. They look very beautiful. I've gone and seen them, all controlled by the Central Tobacco Research Institute, which doesn't want to act. They all run on dry wood. So they actually burn wood to generate heat at 80 degrees Celsius, and tobacco drying is a 7-day process, very controlled in terms of how the leaf should dry. First it's at 30 degrees, then the next day it goes to 50, then 70, then they bring it down, etc. Because the rate of drying, the quality of the end produce depends a lot on how it's dried. And there is this huge opportunity to convert these 10,000 odd barns across the country using solar. And not just solar electricity, as Srinivasji mentioned, it could be solar thermal. You can store. We had in fact had several meetings, but it never moved forward. So these are the kind of opportunities that exist within India to make towards energy efficiency. I already talked about the cold rooms. About 10 to 15% energy can be saved if materials like what we make are integrated into cold rooms to capture all the cold that is being leaked out. Besides, of course, improving insulations, etc. The challenge, we don't finance. We are a product-driven company. We make and we sell, but we are now exploring ESCO models because a lot of people, when you're looking at the agri side in particular and look at the farmers where dryers can be used or cold rooms can be used, they don't have the money to pay, and therefore can we have a petrol pump kind of a model? Can we set up something and then people come and use it, do a pay per use, because a farmer suddenly has 500 kgs of produce which he needs to sell over 5 days. So if I can give him a fridge at his doorstep where these 500 kgs or 1,000 kgs can be stored for those 3-4 days, and he sells 100 kgs a day, he'll get better value for the money. Or if he's able to use the rotting tomatoes and convert it into powder, which can be then given to companies. So market linkages become important. Companies which are making let's say tomato soup powder or anything like that, or increase. I mean, there's a lot of focus now on dried fruits and dried vegetables. So all of that can be done. Market linkages there is important, but what we're trying to do is, at least from the financing point of view, we have identified a couple of companies down south in Tamil Nadu where ESCO model could perhaps be implemented.
Sounds great. Because of the paucity of time, I'll not this thing. So we try to Saptak, you want to focus on the agrivoltaics? Put it on the screen. Yes. So presentation, please. Yeah. So.
Am I audible? Yeah, I think I am. Yes. Before I start, I think it's worthwhile to ask a few questions from the audience. By a show of hands, how many of you are non-vegetarian in the room? Okay, so for the vegetarians, I'm sorry. Beforehand, preemptively, I'm going to talk about something which might be not very palatable. One of the pathways that we focus at C-STEP in the terms of DRE, apart from rooftop solar, is agri-photovoltaics. We are part of the MNRE expert committee as well as the Niti Aayog expert committee, and we are sure that in the course of this year, there is going to be an agri-photovoltaic mission as well. We found out that the agri-photovoltaics potential is between 3.1 to 13.8 terawatts, considering only 20.5 million hectares of land, which is maybe a fraction of what is the arable land in India. Why I'm talking about this today here is that you look at the map of the pilots which are there, it's focused on the western side, and we want to push it more widely across the country. And it is not primarily from the perspective of giving the farmers daytime power for pumping. It is the concept that you give farmers power when they had none before. And the pumping requirement might be only 20 kilowatts, but the land is enough to put 200. So what do you do? What do you do with this extra electricity or energy, and what it means in terms of productivity or entrepreneurship or MSMEs? That is what I want to focus today on, and I'll talk about this, which we are all talking about, and I think GRA practitioners have been talking about for a very long time, in terms of what are the value added infrastructures that we can provide, which will increase the value of what you grow as a farmer or what you rear as a farmer in terms of animal husbandry. I don't know how many of you are aware of this place in Manipur called Thoubal. It's a district. That is what my camera captured a few years ago. So this is a place where typically people say that radiation is less, so solar PV might not work. It's a myth, because you can see that you reach the high fours and the lower fives, especially in this Thoubal area, which is like a valley between utopically beautiful mountains. And this area, this particular village and its surroundings, we looked at around 36,400 acres amongst 25,000 farming families. And the problem is that it's not an ecological problem. The problem is a productivity issue, because they are growing one crop of rice, rain-fed, when they have water less than 40 feet below them. And it's alien to a lot of people from Karnataka and where we are running at 1,000 feet. But this is the reality. And this is what happens. Manipur and the entire northeastern side of that, they have a huge consumption of pig culture. I don't know how many of you like pig, but I love it. As a Bengali, I eat a lot of pigs. And I have had pig-based products from across the world. The smoked pork here is out of this world. And the problem is, they do not have the wherewithal to convert a pig which fetches only 16,000 rupees odd to a farmer to an Italian grade pig which fetches the farmer more than 80,000 rupees. This is where we want to see if agrivoltaics can play a role, not just in allowing the farmer to farm another crop or diversify and have red chilies from Manipur or something as the second crop, but to also take the entire piggery ecosystem and see that today we have no cold chain, we have no carcass grading, we consume it, and we have a 50-kilometer radius in which it's sold. The farmer just gets around 180 rupees a kilo. The retail makes around 300, 400. The revenue for those entire farming community is 186 crores. Remember that Italy, Spain, all of these products, pig-based products, sell very high because they have these GI tags, prosciutto, Parma, they're all names and they're tags. And this does not exist. It has the bhoot jholakia chili, but it does nothing for pigs. So what do? If we take even 20% of the pigs and keep the remaining, because if you go beyond 20%, then local price dynamics might change. Now, per pig, you lose around 30 kilos because of the processing and curing. So you have processing units, you put them, and the microclimate in the Northeast, especially in these areas, is ideal for cooling normally and having the cured and smoked things. So you see that what was 180 rupees a kilo and 300 rupees a kilo at a retail, when you process, it turns to 1100 rupees a kilo. That is more than 3 times. So your value per pig increases threefold, and all you need is all the equipment which everyone is already talking about. So I made a breakup of all the equipment that you need, and I have the penchant for irritating the government a little bit, so I will push Sham to understand that when you are having an Aditi scheme for existing plants, what does it do for a new plant? If I factor in energy efficiency in each of these things, are you going to give some rebate for the interest that is required for setting up such an infrastructure? Or is it only, I will, yes. So suppose that you have to spend 40 crores to set up this infrastructure. You will need around 3.5 gigawatts of power per year. And that you can do with only 3 megawatts of agro-photovoltaics and around 6 megawatt hour of battery storage. And that costs money. That costs around 24.2 crores. And your LCOE comes to roughly 7.1, which is still lesser than the 8.5 retail tariff and commercial tariff in Manipur itself. Now, this is where I want the financiers, the government, and all to focus that I took the subsidy between 3 and 5 and put it at 4%. And I took it only for a few of the equipment which energy efficiency can cater to. When we go beyond thousands and lakhs and talk about tens of crores to give birth to new MSME clusters, you get more than 35% equity IRR, which means that the investor's money compounds by 35% a year. But again, while on paper this looks cool, in reality, today there is a very unhealthy mistrust between the farmers and developers, which is why agrovoltaics needs to have a paradigm shift where that transforms to healthy trust frameworks. For that financial frameworks have to be established, policy and guidelines needs to be established. And this, by the way, doesn't even include the carbon credits, the CCTS scheme, which is also under the BEE, because biochar is black gold at the moment. We don't have a GI tag, which I'm presuming that after 4 years of this hypothetical plant running and the products reach Southeast Asia and Hong Kong and Singapore, and they realize that instead of paying 3,000 rupees a kilo for chorizo, they get a better product at less than 200, maybe. So this is where the opportunity for agrivoltaics lies in specific, and as I said, we are trying to make a portfolio of such interesting interventions. I will not spend too much time. So this is women self-help group in Mao, in MP, where they're growing pumpkin and soybean. If they grow medicinal herbs with polyhouse-based agro-PV, your and then you have these products which nowadays sell on Amazon for more than $500 for each of these cans. Here your IRR goes to 28%. But here I have not put any Aditi scheme, that was only for the previous. So now another one is using agrovoltaics for hail protection in Kashmir. If you guys have followed the news over the last few crop cycles of Kashmir, because of heavy hail, there is a lot of crop wastage. Because of snow, a lot of the apples get stuck. Farmers don't make the money that they deserve to make for growing one of the best apples in the world. So if you have agri-PV based work, you need to put in a lot of money, roughly 125 crores with the operating cost. But if you now allow the MSME to be birthed there, and they have all the facilities that we spoke about with processing, cold storage, and you make products which are apple cider all GI tag, then you go to 36% again. So why I am saying this is primarily how to get these financed. Whether it is through low interest loans, whether it is through social impact investments, whether it is through CSR funds. The point is that we need to establish that India can develop and farmers and entrepreneurs can go 3, 4, 5, 8x also if the support is there. While on theory, we can show it. How does this gathering, how does IDRES, how does this specific panel, the previous panels, how do we ensure that we make investment grade bankable project DPRs? As a think tank, we can always make these projects. We need partners, the legal frameworks, the financiers to tell us, to give us feedback that, look, this might not be risk of, so to make it, you need to mitigate these risks, and then we can think of this as a reality. And with that, I would end my presentation, and I think if somebody has questions later, we'll take them up. Thanks.
Wonderful, Sapta. Thanks, Srinivas sir. Just quickly jumping because of the time constraint. Because of your experience, I can always ask you this. From your vantage point, you've seen the whole landscape shift from DRE from, I think, eons back to where it stands currently. What has changed? What has changed in the whole landscape? Where is all this heading? The whole DRE landscape, from your perspective.
Oh, thank you. After a very good presentation, anything else would look dull. But nevertheless, nevertheless, I think that's what I was just thinking. 30 years ago, I started with running a 1 microgrid, one of the first running on a gasifier system. I ran it for 3 years. So from then we moved to developing pilots, perfecting the pilots, which took almost 5 to 6 years. From then we fast forward. Now we have almost so many startups, so many DRE entrepreneurs who are when I saw last compendium, there are 100, 125 packages. Now it's like 475 packages. It's still counting. Last week I was with Atal Innovation Mission Samvad. I think Selco representative, I think Huda was there. She said we have 800 now. So it's moving very fast, I would say. And in the ministry also, when Mr. Jethani, day before yesterday, he said we are trying to formulate a program around DRE. Earlier were the days, we had just 2, 3, 4, trying to benchmark. So now is the scheme is going to be developed, something like that. That's what he hinted. So we are really moving in very good area, and something. So what it is looking forward to is definitely schemes like this, which will give impetus. Second, what I have seen is If you recall, 2018 we had this op-ed where we Clean wrote about this Suryaghar kind of a thing without that name particularly. It exactly gave almost the similar thing, that 20 gigawatt through 1 crore households. When it came as a PM mission, it worked well. So we, something that is like that kind of a mission mode is helping. So perhaps the way ministry is looking at the DRE, want to do it in mission mode, I think perhaps is a very good move. We are looking at scale. If the scale is there, the cost gets reduced. So I would say when we are doing this, our DRE players have to, one, find that those kind of schemes will come. Another is piggyback on the schemes like this, Aditi program or Unido programs, quickly find out, formulate packages, and then go back to them, DRE. Otherwise, okay, he has a program to run with energy efficiency primarily, that will happen. But otherwise we'll lag. We have always lagged. DRE always lagged in the last 30 years, I've seen. So we have to be really fast forward. Clean as an industry network should really help. Whether it is startups, R&D centers, or the on-ground based backward research, do all that it requires, facilitate all that it requires, but fast pace it, attach with piggyback on the ongoing programs, look forward with readiness for the upcoming schemes. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Srinivas-ji. With that, the last question, and I also want the crowd to be ready with the questions. So you know what, I would highly encourage, this will make it a little bit more efficient. Whoever has questions, can you come extremely on the right, just stand over here, can make a queue over here. So it'll be great. So that'll become efficient. People don't have to provide mics and all that. So, we'll make it a little bit more efficient. Just extreme right, people can gather over here and just stand. And sorry about that, but let's do it that way. The last question for Sham. Sham, from your initiative, specifically focusing on Aditi, what kind of traction you're seeing? A. B is, what is the problem with MSMEs? Are they like, what are the problems that you've seen from the MSMEs lens? And what is the horizon for this specific scheme? Post which, can you comment something for the DRE sector?
Firstly, I should answer Shapta's questions. So, okay, so
we have questions for them. So
okay, so let me touch upon the opportunities there for DRE in MSMEs as of today. See, based on our experience, we largely focus on energy efficiency. But over the time, we also understood after various visits and consultation. So there, the DRE has like largest potential in MSMEs among the common utilities. See, suppose a community boiler can be established, which can be managed by decentralized application. And same way, compressed air. And similarly, even say if 100 units together come up with a rooftop solar, they can manage their own decentralized RE power for specific operations. And even effluent treatment plants, because I visited leather clusters, even some chemical clusters. Effluent treatment plants, I would say some of the largest facility in the leather enterprises. If you see Pallavaram, Manembadi, even Kanpur, they have hundreds and 200s of units of leather processing units because they process the hides and they finish till the finished products. So a lot of water has been consumed and all the water has been recycled and again sent back to the respective units for washing those hides in the initial processes. So the effluent treatment plant is, I would say, I've seen the facility also, it's huge. So that can be managed by decentralized RE. And similarly, if you go to Tirupur, I had a case because many industries had approached BE on how to, because there is a lot of movements, like transportation happens between industry to industries. One segment of industries finish and they supply to other industries. So there's a lot of, the goods has been transported between industry to industry, and not only for goods transportation, but also bringing the workers remotely from villages and dropping them to the industry facility. So the moment, even they also address this is the cost they're also looking at to reduce, because a lot of cost has been consumed for transportation. So they're also looking to shift towards EV. That was a proposal that came from Tirupur textile cluster. So similarly, Also cold storage, that is also a high energy guzzling entity. So that also can be managed by decentralized. What I'm coming to here is every cluster has kind of a common facility that can be managed in a large scale, that can be managed by decentralized RE. So I would say, I also did a short assessment while doing this mapping study in the 60 clusters. Even if, say, every unit takes up, say, 100 or 200 kilowatt systems in their facility, in the 60 cluster, you might touch upon 3 gigawatts of capacity. That's the scale, I would say, it's the smallest of the smallest. The facility can have much more in megawatt scale, but I would say smallest of the smallest size can fetch you about 3 gigawatts with the basic facility. And again, you can see, I will, maybe we are too advanced. Even every MSME cluster can have it can be futuristic, but I would say a small hydrogen-based power plants also for their facility. So that also can be think about in future. So that is I want to touch upon this. And second thing is what you asked for is the traction of MSMEs. So initially, the MSME don't come forward for any programs and schemes because they look for a direct financial subsidy, or that's what they largely look at any proposals. But one thing is, our schemes are designed in such a way that we have to guide them to the process. So handhold them, first understand their challenges, make them to understand what are the opportunities in the facility, get them in the auditing program, and so that they can formalize their review of the operations. So then later, but all the technology recommendation would follow, and we are there to service them. And so financing is, I would say, it is just an icing of the cake. But otherwise, many clusters are well equipped financially. But only the handhold support is what they're looking at. Because normally Srinivas had already implemented large programs in the past. But we all pitched in the clusters at a programmatic level. We exit very early. But at that point of time, they look for further support, but we were not there at that time. So they need a continuous handhold support. That is, I would say, traction is there, but we have to be there throughout with them. Yeah, that would stop.
Oh, thanks a lot. So with that, you know what? I had one specific question with all, but I'll stop that. I want to take questions from the crowd. And please, anybody, any specific questions? You have the people over here. Any specific questions with the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, with Shyam, with everybody on the panel? Please go ahead, sir. And Mike, please. Yeah. Right over there, sir. Right behind you.
Thank you, Chairman. I am Harish Kumar from CSTV Innovation Access to Energy from Rajasthan. मैं आज ही आया हूँ जयपुर से. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद चेयरमैन को. मैं थैंक्स दूंगा आप मिस्टर जो जिनका प्रेजेंटेशन है इको फोल्टेक्विट्स के ऊपर, क्योंकि मणिपुर की जो एग्जांपल है वो नॉर्थ ईस्ट में सोलर इज ए वेरी हाई. आई एम बिलोंग टू राजस्थान. राजस्थान के अंदर सोलर इज हाईएस्ट सोलर एडिशन है. इज देयर एन एग्जांपल ऑन ड्यूल टेक्नोलॉजी बाजरा प्लस सोलर एज ए under the KUSUM scheme? Any example you have, anything in the exam? Otherwise, we have start project on dual technology activity, Bajra millet plus solar energy on a 2-hectare land as under the KUSUM Yojana.
Thank you. Just 1 second, Saptak. Anybody else have questions? We can take 2 more questions and then the panelists can respond. Oh, Ishan, please go ahead. Ishan happens to be my colleague, disclaimer. Yeah.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm a consultant at CSEP and I work under Sharad sir actually. And sorry, one second. Yeah, so I have a question from Samit sir. So this is from a MSME perspective, right? So yours was, you started enterprise on your own. So I just wanted to understand your perspective was like, how did you manage to scale your enterprise? And I was interested particularly on that your company got acquired by the Murugappa group. So was there a particular reason for like merging with them? So I wanted to understand your company's trajectory actually.
A little bit off DRE, but But as an MSME guy, I was also interested in scale. The first thing any guy who starts off MSME, I don't know about the DRE part of it. I was completely on DRE. Was you want to start an IPO? I mean, that was the whole thing back then. This was in 2015ish, but now the trend must have changed completely. So yeah, please, so Saptak, over to you, and then we can take a couple of more questions for sure. But now we will we'll wait for the respondents, and then we'll go with the question.
Thank you for your question, sir. Rajasthan, we're working already in rooftop solar. And as I said, we are very, very keen to explore these possible project pipelines. In Orissa, we're looking at millets because Orissa is a millet mission and with agro-PV. So there's no reason, मुझे लगता नहीं है कि ऐसा कोई बाधा है जो हम लोग नहीं कर सकते. तो आप हमको आपका कार्ड दे या नंबर दे दीजिए, मेरा टीम आपसे जुड़ के बात कर लेंगे. Yeah. जी.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, little off the panel topic, but nevertheless, why did we? Why did we look at acquisition by Murugappa Group? So the Murugappa Group is a very diversified group. Almost like the Tatas or the Birlas. They may not be as large as the Tatas, but they are very large. It's a 8 billion, enterprise. They, as I said, are diversified. So they have some companies which work in the materials space. And as Sharath also mentioned, and we mentioned, and the government has now taken a great step by the Anusandhan National Research Foundation, where they are going to be doling out 20,000 crores over the next year to further basic R&D in science. So when we look at materials, it's a slow moving business. It needs a lot of investments. It also needs a lot of investment in the equipment and people, both the R&D equipment and people. And they had materials interest in a variety of materials, from minerals to ceramics to abrasives. So they were looking at expanding their materials portfolio, and therefore we felt it to be synergistic to look at seeing how we can collaborate with them. So that's primarily one reason. Second, I think it's very important for a lot of you youngsters here. Today, when people do startups, they all look at getting out of it by selling off. But if we need to create institutions, it is important that we partner with organizations like this. I want my company to last beyond me. We are not just looking at selling off equity, making some money, and then doing something else with it. So I think institution building is important for any organization, for any technology to grow, and for the organization to be able to evolve over time. So these are groups, and we have several in India which have been there for the last 100, 200 years, and they continue to evolve. So that was another thing that we were looking at. How can we become sustainable in the long run and continue to build an institution that could serve the country? Thanks.
Well, with that, we come to the end. The last bit, we're closing this. So how do we plan to proceed? Sorry, sir, you know what, because of the lack of time, but you can catch the individuals as we proceed. So the last bit, there's going to be a continuation of this whole exercise. I mean, basically Clean and C-Step are going to hold another round of workshop where we still have to decide where exactly it is. The idea over there is, with Bureau of Energy Efficiency and with us together, can we come up with something specifically focused for DRE and MSME sector? And can then that intervention, can that be then, it flows through now to the Ministry of Power? All right, thank you.
Thank you, panelists, for this really interesting and insightful session. I hope this conversation encourages stronger collaboration between policymakers, financial institutions, tech providers, and MSMEs to design solutions that are scalable, accessible, and inclusive. May I now request Sharath sir to please felicitate the speakers. Ms. Shelley, can you please step forward? Samit sir, can you please step forward? Saptak sir, can you please step forward? Srinivas sir. Shyam sir. I would now like to felicitate our moderator.
One big round of applause to the
Yep.
individuals. They come from different parts of India. Right. And pretty much everybody is